Hey, I want to put this together because it's, I think, four things that every client needs from you today. Four things that every client needs from every single salesperson, no matter what product or service you are selling out there. Four things that every client needs. The first thing that they need is they need for you to care. There's a saying, people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And are you curious about your client? And what's the number one way you can show someone you care? By listening to them. But yet research tells us that salespeople talk 80% of the time in most meetings. And in order to get your client to open up, so you have to listen, you have to understand their business. You have to understand some of their priorities in a way that gets them to open up. Ask the right questions without an agenda, that you're truly curious to be able to understand what they're looking to achieve or how you're going to solve their problem. Be curious. Once you've cared for your client and you're listening to them, the second thing they need from you is trust. But trust isn't a feeling. Trust is three things. I like to say there's 3 C's to trust. Being consistent in the way you approach your client, being consistent in the things that you offer your client, being consistent in the delivery and expectation of services that you provide your client each and every time. The right character, relationship. I'm the relationship owner. That's important. But it's only 1/3 of the aspect, right? Character is important in that aspect, and that's a relationship piece. But it has to be backed by competence. And competence shouldn't just be sold in your product or service. Competence has to come through you. How are you differentiating yourself through the way you represent yourself, through the way that you differentiate yourself through your conversations and the value you bring to the table each and every time? Are you seeking mutual and meaningful interaction with your client each and every time to listen to them, to truly understand and help them solve their problem, and to be able to articulate their problem better than they can? That's value. So once you've cared for your customer and you've established a level of trust through the CCs, right? Consistency, character, competence, then what are you doing to educate them? Listen, sales hasn't changed. There is no sales transformation. Sales has not changed. It's simply, by definition, you're changing a service or product for the exchange of money. That's what you're doing, changing a commodity for exchange for money or revenue. That hasn't changed, but the buyer has, because when there's this thing called the internet, this thing called social media, the buyer is much more educated. But they don't want this persona. Don't think that you just looked at my LinkedIn and you know me. What are you doing to personalize your interaction with me? What value are you bringing to the table to educate me? And don't dump this 30-page insight book or playbook on me. Break it out and understand, what's the impact to my business? Why are you sending this? Are you educating your customer? And lastly, what your customer wants from you, I know it sounds odd, so they want you to be vulnerable. What level of transparency, what level of vulnerability are you showing with your customer? We've reached a point in time that you need to be real, transparent, and authentic in every interaction with your client. If you think that your product or service is not going to perform to the way they want, own it. If you think that your product or service cannot offer distinct value, get out. But be transparent with your client. The day and age of trying to convince your client is done. It's over. Customers today want a level of caring, to be curious, to actually seek what's happening in my business. They want a level of trust that's bringing the right consistency, the right character, the right competence. They want to be educated. Validate my decisions or educate me accordingly. Guide me in this journey of where I'm trying to go. And lastly, what are you doing to be very authentic with me, vulnerable with me, transparent? And listen, most people don't want that. Now, I get argued all the time, and hear me out. There's an order to this. I do think that you first need to show them you care. After you care, establish a level of trust. And after you've established a level of trust, then you've earned the right to start educating, challenging, or teaching them. But once you've done those 3 things, you deserve, the client deserves, you deserve to get to a level of transparency and authentic communication. 4 things every single client, regardless of product or service, regardless of industry, they need today: care, trust, educate, vulnerability. My name is Eric Stavola. I hope you enjoyed this coaching point.